All right, guys, welcome back to the science section, part two. Today we're going to go through a quick review of what we talked about last time, and then we're going to go into a little bit more about some different skills that you can use for specific things. All right, so a quick review of last time. We've talked about our overall biggest enemy on the science section is getting over the whole idea that you've already taken so many tests and you're going to end up not having the energy to take the last one. Remember, the science section is actually kind of the easiest section. It's just hard because it's last. As long as you keep on your time, you've only got 35 minutes to do 7 passages at 5 minutes each, which means you've got about 30 seconds a question plus about 2 minutes of reading per thing. If you just stay with it, you'll end up with a pretty good score because they assume everyone's going to do worse on this section, so they typically make it the easiest. All right, so remember, answer every question. No matter what happens, you've got to stay to the 30-second rule, meaning if you're getting down to the end of any section, it's going to be worthwhile to make sure you at least have a guess on every question if you can't find it for sure. And if you can't find the for sure answer, try to narrow it down by figuring out which ones are wrong. And usually about half the answers are pretty easy to tell if they're wrong. So at worst, you can get down to a 50-50 and then guess from there. But if you still have no idea at all, figure out what your standard guess is and make sure that you keep doing the one answer that you have picked. Typically, don't pick E because in the science section, there is no E. Now, after that point, you're going to make sure that you never skip through passages because if you have to go back and read another passage again, you're wasting a ton of time. If you stay to the 30-second rule, you'll at least answer all the easy questions, and that's where you pick up easy points. There's only going to be about 2 easy questions per passage, and then about 3 intermediate, and then a hard. And if you do at least the easy ones, you should at least get an average score on the test overall, which means at least a 19 or 20, and that can be a huge difference. All right, so difficulty of the questions doesn't matter. All of them have the same value. So if you mess up on the hard ones, it's not as big of a deal. Just keep on your 30 seconds because if you go over your 30 seconds, you're going to end up not answering the easy questions that you could have gotten right. Now, we're going to look at data representations real quick one more time. We got variables are something that changes in an experiment, and the independent variable is what is the experimental or what the experimenter is changing. So if you're the one experimenting, you would be changing that. If it's somebody else, they would be changing that. The dependent variable is the one that is changed by what they're measuring. So if they are changing one thing, it's going to affect something else. That's your dependent variable. So, for example, if you push a cart, you're applying force to the cart. The dependent variable might be the force of the cart or the speed of the cart. All right, so in this example in the graph, we've got 2 different things. We've got a year going across the bottom, and you've got number of individuals going up as it goes. The years are going across the bottom because you cannot do something that is going to change the time. We can't do time travel or control time, so you can only do experiments based off of the time and what that changes from time to time. So in this case, the time is your independent variable, and your dependent variable is the number of individuals of dolphins in the channel from 1996 to 2001. So as you can see, it overall gets moved from year to year and has a change in the number of dolphins. So the value changes based on that. Another thing to remember is your number doesn't have to start at 0. It just so happens to in this case. Now, for this one, we've got a bar graph. Bar graphs are a little interesting because they don't have to be in a standard orientation. Like in this case, the time is going up the side and the money values are on the bottom. Bar graphs kind of work differently because the flow doesn't have to be as easily seen through having a set standard. In this case, you're just comparing values of different quarters in money to different years. On this one, we've got a chart, and the chart in this case has no heading, so it's hard to know what it would be about. And if I didn't know what it was about, it would be difficult because they just have like M50 through M4 on the side. But since I know what thread means and head shape, I know that they're talking about screws. And each of these different things have values associated with them. And the headings tell you how to find information quickly. This is a really good example of why you should always have a title for any chart that you have. The different names give you quick information. So if you're looking for a pan head screw with a flat head attachment for the screws and a diameter of 12, then that would be an M12. The diameter happens to match the name, so that comes in handy. All right, so next, for data representations, you need to ask yourself 4 quick questions. What are the units of measure? What are the values of the variables? Are there any trends, and are there any correlations? The units of measure are how big the units are. The values of the variables tell you what the actual numbers are, and then the trends tell you if things are going in a particular direction, or if it's a correlation, if one thing is moving in a particular way, you can account for something else moving also in that particular way or in an opposite direction. All right, so there is a chance that you'll need to know the metric system as far as the difference between the different headings. So kilo, hecta, deca, base, deci, centimilli, or King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. It's one of the few science facts that can come in handy that you might need to know. As far as anything else goes, you're probably not going to have to know a lot about anything like specific science information, but knowing a little bit about the scientific method and scientific units is a little bit of a plus. All right, so make sure you know what the measurement the chart or graph is using because it may require you to convert units. And if you have to convert units, remember you just move your decimal to the left or the right based off of what the starting value is. All right, so scientific method. If you don't remember it, there are 7 steps. First step is state the problem. You can't solve a problem that you don't know is actually a problem. Step 2, research, gather information, and then form a hypothesis based on that information if you didn't already find what you're looking for. And a hypothesis is an educated guess. And the educated part means you did the research first. It's not just a blind guess. You have to know what you're talking about. Step 4, perform an experiment. You got to have a control and you got to have variables set up. 5, record and analyze the data. Once you've done your experiment, you have to have numbers or at least observations to figure out if what you did mattered. And then 6, state a conclusion. It doesn't always have to agree with the hypothesis. In fact, in science, it's sometimes more important to say that something is not right than to say that it is. And then number 7, repeat the process. Repeat the process is actually really important, because if you don't have a process that keeps going, if your process doesn't keep going every time that you do it, it's not good science and it won't be effective in the future. So next we're going to talk about controlled versus experimental variables. Controlled variable does not include what is being tested. So it's going to be something that you're holding steady outside of the normal variable. So it's not going to change at all. That's why it's called control. It's under control. This is not to say that it's the control for your experiment you're testing against. This is a variable that could be changed, but it's not. It's held under control. And then an experimental variable includes a variable that is being tested. The results obtained from the experiment must have an ability to either prove or disprove the hypothesis. A hypothesis has to be falsifiable, meaning it has to be able to be proved or disproved. So rules for most experiments require a control group. The control group is what you're testing your experiment against to make sure that it has any value at all. And then an experiment should not test more than one variable at a time. This may seem counterintuitive because we've been talking about the independent variable and the dependent variable both being changed, but you're only controlling one variable and that is causing the other one to change. So it's still just one variable being tested. And an experiment should be unbiased. Bias is almost inevitable, but you need to be as unbiased as possible. So if something is not working out, you need to be able to go back to the beginning and say, this is not working, and we need to look at something else, change the hypothesis, mix it up. And then 4, only the data from the experiment should be used to make the conclusion. You can't use outside information, even if you think you know something else. All right. So, research summaries. What is a variable? The changes in an experiment, what is being tested, and so independent causes another value or characteristic to change when it is changed. Dependent is the value that changes due to the change in the independent variable. So how many variables can be tested in an experiment? 1 and only 1. All right. So for this one, we've got hypothesis, plants grow better in the dark. The control group put a plant in normal light conditions. The experimental group put it in the dark. You don't need to be a genius to know what's going to happen to the plant in the dark. But what is the independent variable? The independent variable would be the light. What is the dependent variable? The dependent variable would be the growth or living status of the plant. All right,